making nitric oxide in the body, not only do you have the raw material, which is arginine, or what, technically we call substrates, but you also have to convert that arginine into nitric oxide. And the reaction is shown, if you look on the Nitro, the Max Nitro product data sheet, you have the reaction of arginine plus NO synthase producing citrulline and nitric oxide. It's a very simple process in the body. There's different forms of what's called the nitric oxide synthase. That is the enzyme. And, biochemistry is all about enzymes. It's converting one thing to the other. You can have as much arginine as you want, piles of the stuff, but if you don't have the enzyme to convert it to nitric oxide, you're not going to really deliver any of that. So, you can kind of think of it simply as, a pile of wood being shoveled into a fireplace. The pile of wood would be your substrate arginine, but you have to kind of shovel an individual or a process where you can actually take the wood, individual wood, and move it into the fireplace to be burned. eNOS, the endothelial nitric oxide synthase, which is the key enzyme in sports nutrition, it's very important to optimize that. So, this area is very important in terms of making nitric oxide. And the two ingredients that have been shown to effectively, and again, we're drilling down to the gene level in terms of gene responses. This is typically called genomics. In terms of upregulating there's a process called transcription and translation where you're upregulating the gene. These two ingredients, resveratrol and quercetin, which are very interesting ingredients from a scientific point of view, actually promotes or upregulates or enhances eNOS production or amplification. And it's actually at the gene level. There's several genes on the DNA that do that. So you're actually, that's the kind of cutting edge approach that we're taking to our formulations in terms of, looking at ingredients that actually can optimize or upregulate at the gene level. Genes are the blueprint that direct proteins. eNOS is a protein. We talk a lot about proteins, but proteins are regulated by genes, and that's, on the DNA. Anyways, it's very interesting, and this is a very kind of unique product. I'm not aware of any other product in the market that, does have these two components that specifically focus to optimize the enzyme, the endothelial nitric oxide synthase, to convert arginine into nitric oxide. So we're approaching it at two levels. One is the amount of arginine in the formula, and secondly is to optimize or to support the key enzyme to convert that arginine into nitric oxide, and that's really the approach that was taken into the product. The other differences would be the cofactors that also help optimize that you don't have in the Max Nitro, which would be vitamin C. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid, it's no big deal to a lot of people, but it's a very interesting function in this because it does enhance citrulline. Citrulline kind of helps to recycle NO, so it's very important to have L-citrulline in the product. And vitamin C does work or enhances the effectiveness of citrulline, so we do have that in the product. We also have riboflavin, which supports the production of what's called FAD and nicotinic acid, NAD or NADH. These are important in just the activation or optimizing of eNOS. The other benefit, niacin, is in a nicotinic acid form, so you do have the vasodilation effect. So you get vasodilation is basically kind of a expansion of the blood vessels in this form. So you have 75 milligrams of nicotinic acid, so you would get a vasodilation effect. and B6, and then we've also included this special form of magnesium. It's a chelated glycinate form. It comes from albumin, and it's a very special form of magnesium. So the approach on this product, aside from the different delivery system, really focuses on providing the substrate arginine and also optimizing the conversion of that arginine into nitric oxide, into a pretty unique type of product that hopefully has the response and support that we expect it to.
Now, I'm not familiar with nicotinic acid. That's not in any relation to nicotine, is it?
No, actually, in the vitamin development, there is, you can actually find niacin in nicotine, but nicotinic acid is just the other name of niacin. The reason I selected nicotinic acid in this formulation, there are forms of niacin, vitamin B3 like niacinamide, that does not cause vasodilation, but nicotinic acid does. And the idea is to get, again, it's not in a super high dose, but the form of niacin in nicotinic acid, which, yeah, it does sound like it's coming from nicotine. But anyways, it's just the name of the vitamin. But you are getting a vasodilation effect. If anyone, that kind of flushing, the niacin flush, that some forms of niacin come in, that is the nicotinic acid form of niacin.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure, so I didn't have a customer that if they saw the word nicotinic, I want to make sure I have the right response for them.
Yeah, it's just a technical form of niacin. If there's any, you could also pass along to the customer that this form of niacin will cause some vasodilation if they take the product, and if they get a little bit of a flushing, that's what it's supposed to do. And what it's doing is just kind of opening up the blood vessels because, again, you want to have that vasodilation. That's really what pumping is just opening up or vasodilating the blood vessels, meaning that they expand versus contract. And, that's the form that we put in there, and it was specifically selected to do that, to get a vasodilation effect. Dosing is always based on size, so I would generally say the 4 capsules would be for an individual maybe up to 200, 220 pounds. Anyone over 220, maybe want to double up to 8 capsules. It is dependent on body weight, so if an individual is not getting the response, and this is a very key question because, some individuals may just take a product one time and say, oh, it doesn't work, and kind of do that. It may be a dose thing. And, they may need a higher dose. I mean, drugs are given that way in terms of higher dosing. So I would recommend to start out with 4 caps pre-workout. Make sure that individual, it's an interesting thing with caffeine because caffeine is a vasoconstrictor, and even though you get that feel-it effect, actually caffeine can inhibit nitric oxide synthase. So I would recommend to take it without caffeine, 15 to 30 minutes before, this product is going to break down really quick. Take the 4 capsules, kind of see what effect there is. If there's no significant benefit, then I would maybe add 2 more or maybe up to 4 more capsules. The thing with caffeine is very interesting. The amount of caffeine in full-blown per serving, it's under 200 milligrams. There may be an effect, but when you get into the higher dosages of caffeine, the 2, the 3, the 4, and this is the interesting phenomenon with caffeine versus some of these other, it can, kind of slow down or shut down or reduce the effectiveness, and we're primarily talking about eNOS. We're talking about the enzyme because it does kind of have a negative effect on that. So if you want to have more of an optimal effect, I would recommend a small amount of caffeine or even no caffeine because that will, hopefully, and I hope the message is sinking in a little bit because it's all about eNOS. It's all about that enzyme that converts arginine to nitric oxide, and that's why this formulation is interesting and unique and kind of cool is because it's focusing more on the eNOS rather than just the arginine. You can have as much arginine as you want, but you're really trying to upregulate, and again, it's at the gene level. It's clearly genomics,
regular full-blown, and I got a great pump. I got pumped up in the first 15 minutes. So the caffeine and regular full-blown didn't affect it at all. Actually, I got a huge pump from it, so it really helped out the full-blown. So I still got a little bit of energy without getting tweaked, if you know what I mean, and I got a great pump. So if you're out there, try it yourself. If you guys work out, just try them both.